Okay, good morning everyone and welcome to this week's Parsha Insights. One of my challenges, my life challenges that I struggle with is confrontation. I'll do anything to avoid it, and I'll always try to stay away and not put myself in a situation where I'm going to have to confront someone about something which is uncomfortable. And the issue with that is that most things in life, if you want to succeed in many areas of growth, we need to have the courage to confront. We need to be able to confront confrontation. So this week's Parsha, Parshas Matot Masei, is a double Parsha, and it actually completes the fourth book of the Torah. And I want to discuss a confrontation that happens in this week's Parsha between the tribes, Gad and Reuven, with Moshe Rabbeinu, the leader. And maybe from here we can learn ways how we can combat and how we can work on and how we can approach confrontation. So the Jewish people had just spent the best part of 40 years in the desert, wandering through the desert and eventually conquering lands, approaching their final destination, the land of Israel, the Holy Land. And Moshe was approached by two tribes, Gad and Reuven, and they said to him, "Vayomru im matzanu chen beinecha, yutan es haaretz hazois." They said to him, if you find favor in your eyes, please let us take this land that we're on right now as a holding, and we don't want to move across the Jordan River into the land of Israel. We want to stay here. These tribes of Gad and Reuven had more livestock than most of the other tribes, and the land they were on now, they thought would be perfect for them, for their families. Let's build homes, build houses. And they felt this was the perfect place to settle. So imagine that they're approaching, confronting the leader of the Jewish people, who's saying, let's all go into the land of Israel. We're going to conquer the land. And these tribes are like, we want to stay here. So what was Moshe's response? Moshe, as the leader of the Jewish people, was not happy at all. He turns to them, he says, your brothers are going to war. Your brothers are going to conquer the land of Israel, and you want to sit here and watch? He says to them, are you okay with people struggling, with watching, sitting on the sidelines while people are going through their challenges, while people are trying to achieve something? You just want to sit there and watch? And he laid it into them. He brought up the story of the Meraglim, the spies, of what happened. He said, you spent 40 years in the desert because of these spies that turned the Jewish people off from entering the land of Israel. And he detailed how angry Hashem was with the spies. He said to them, Hine kamtem tachas avosechem tabers anoshim chatoim lisbois oid al charoin af Hashem ad Yisrael. He said, and now you, a breed of sinful men, have replaced your fathers to add still further to the Lord's wrath against Israel. Moshe was not happy with these tribes that were causing something amongst the Jewish people. Moshe was worried. He's like, come on guys, we've done the whole desert thing. We've passed through it. Let's just get into the land of Israel. Let's conquer the land of Israel. And now, a last minute challenge. And Moshe was right to tell them off, because they just spent 40 years in this desert, and they're like, come on. So, most decisions in our lives and most choices that we make, they're made for personal gain. Most times when we feel the need to confront, feel the need to make a decision, most of the time the final decision, the choice that we make, usually is because of a personal gain that we have. But how often do we stop and do something for the others? Like Moshe Rabbeinu telling these people, are you caring about your brothers that are about to enter the land and conquer the land of Israel? How often do we actually really stop and care about what the other person is going through? And Moshe Rabbeinu over here is not just talking to the Jewish people, to the tribes of Gad and Reuven. There he's talking to each of us here. He says, when confronted with an opportunity, when we are confronted with a chance to make a difference in the world, do we sit back and watch? Do we avoid the need to confront? Do we avoid this? We'll have to, in order to make a difference in the world, we need to go out of our comfort zone. Do we avoid the need to progress? And do we lose this opportunity? Or do we jump at it and realize someone needs help, there's care that needs to happen, and I'm going to do it to make that difference? Now, as I said, I struggle with confrontation, but I wanted to explain to you something that my wife Michal did this week, which I thought was absolutely, unbelievably incredible. There was a video going around this past week about the founders of Bnei Olam, which is an organization that helps couples who are struggling with having children. Now, the founders of this organization, called Shlomie and Chani Bochner, they're over 60 years old and they've never had children themselves. True pioneers. They started this organization realizing there's so many other couples that are struggling and that they want to have a child, and it's a lot of times the block is not knowing the right advice or not having the right funds, and they did everything in their power to start this organization. And Baruch Hashem, they've helped, according to their numbers, they've helped 8,723 babies come into the world to date. It's an unbelievable thing. But they put out this video last week. They were doing a fundraiser and they put out a video of the story of the founders, Shlomie and Chani Bochner. And it was hard. It was hard to see that it was showing their struggles and what they went through trying to have children 20, 30 years, and then they just realizing, you know what, we can't have children ourselves. Let's help the world have children. And my wife was lying in bed that night. She was thinking, it's just I feel their pain. It's just hard. It's hard. She couldn't sleep that night. So she happened to have the number of this couple from some years ago, and she gave them a call. She called up their number in America. And he answered the phone. And she said, listen, I'm from Manchester, England. I'm here. I just can't sleep tonight. And I'm really thinking of your pain and what you both have been through. And I just want to say that that we care. And the Jewish nation, we're here for you. We're here with you. And he was so appreciative. He was so thankful of the thought of the phone call. I thought it was an unbelievable thing that she did. And he turns to her and he says, my wife is not here right now, but I know she would love to hear from you too. So please, when we get off the phone, please send us a voice note. Send me a voice note on WhatsApp and I'll play it for my wife so she knows that there's people around the world that care. This video of the Bochners was watched on YouTube over 34,000 times. How many people had the courage to pick up the phone and call the Bochners and say, I'm thinking of you. We are here with you. The Jewish people is with you. Now that is courage. That is unbelievable. Now how did the tribes, so going back to Moshe, how did the tribes of the Israelites, Gad and Reuven, approach Moshe? How did they turn back to Moshe after Moshe told them off? If I was being told off, if someone's screaming at you, telling you, why are you making those decisions? Why are you trying to do something? What would I usually do? I would either, I don't know if I would do this, but you freeze, you retreat. Some people might shout back. They turned to Moshe and they said to him, Vayigshu. They said to him, Vayigshu Elav Vayomru. The word used, Vayigshu, they approached. They calmly, softly approached Moshe. They took a step closer. They took a step, they're showing Moshe, we want to create a relationship with you. We care about the Jewish people. Showing Moshe, they are on the same page. When you want to hear someone out, when you want someone to hear you, when you want to create harmony, when there's a need for confrontation, you don't shout from the other side of the room, you take a step forward. Like the steps we take in Shemona Esra, we take 3 steps, showing Hashem we want dialogue, we want conversation, we want relationship, and there's a willingness to engage. And what did they tell Moshe? They said to him, don't worry, Moshe. We were going to leave our wives and children over here, and the strong men of our strong men, we're going to come and we're going to go to the front lines and fight the Jewish people with you. And we're not going to return to our homes until every single Jew is in possession of their portion of land. So we're going to fight. And we see here the art of compromise. We see they're able to kind of have this dialogue, have this conversation, and they both came out winning kind of what they wanted. And Rabbi Naftali Tzvi Yehuda Berlin, known as the Netziv, he says in his commentary, the Heimek Dava, he explains that the 2 arguments the tribe gave. He says the argument that Moshe had against the tribe says, how can you leave the Jewish people to conquer the land on their own? And do you not believe that Hashem will protect you, that Hashem is going to look after all of us? Were you scared? So they turned to him and said, no, we will fight on the front lines and we'll leave our wives behind. They are reassuring Moshe. Now I just want to give over, so there's the kind of the 3 steps to confronting, to having the courage to confront is approach. Take that step forward. You learn from it, they took the yigshu. They took the step forward, showing that we want relationship, we're on the same page. Take the physical step forward. Then tackle an issue at a time. They realize Moshe said this complaint, that complaint. Tackle one issue at a time. And third, don't be afraid. It's very easy to say don't be afraid. Of course, having faith, having emunah in Hashem, working in our relationship with Hashem and in realizing the higher picture, the higher power, it does help us. But I saw something really beautiful. Years and years ago, sometimes we think confrontation or having the need to say something, to speak what we really feel, we think it takes weeks, years, and our minds are bogged down with the thought of the need to confront. But years and years ago, I watched a movie. I don't remember what the movie was called, who acted in it. But there was a moment in it which I still think of today, and it still helps me today. It's the concept of the 20 seconds of courage. We miss so many opportunities because of the lack of courage, the lack of being able to confront. Sometimes we need to just tell ourselves, Shlomie, I do this to myself, Shlomie, right now, you have 20 seconds to make the biggest difference of your life. And it's just 20 seconds. After 20 seconds, don't worry about it. Whatever happened has happened. Just 20 seconds and go wild. All you need is 20 seconds. Sometimes we're kind of afraid to tell yourself, Shlomie, right now, 20 seconds, boom, and you're in. And I think that's really, really, really beautiful and really powerful. But I just want to end off with a powerful lesson that I also saw this week. I think it was going around WhatsApp, a story, but I looked it up and it was in the remember those books, Chicken Soup for the Jewish Soul, or Chicken Soup for the Soul, or something. Really interesting books. And I saw a story that was brought down in there, and I think it's just a really powerful story on courage and on care. This young girl, Lisa, she had, unfortunately, a very rare disease. She was ill with a rare disease, and her only chance of survival was a blood transfusion from her brother. Her younger brother, her brother was 8 years old and 9 years old. And they turned to the boy and said to him, listen, your sister's really ill. Unfortunately, she might die. But the chance of survival is if you would give her some of your blood, if you make a transfusion with your blood. Donate your blood. So he thought about it and he said, for my sister, of course. Of course I'll do it. He said, anything to save my sister. And the day came and they went to the hospital and they're lying there, and as the transfusion was progressing, he lay in the bed next to his sister and he was smiling and he looked content. Suddenly he looks at the doctor in seriousness. His face goes serious and he says to the doctor with a trembling voice, he's like, will I start to die right away? When will I die? The young boy, not understanding what was asked of him, he thought he was going to have to die and give up all of his blood for his sister. We see the innocence of a boy willing to kind of give up of himself to care for his sister, to care for his brother, to care for his family. And I think that's just such a powerful lesson, and I thought, and it just made me think of now this moment where Moshe is chastising the Jewish people for maybe not showing that care for their brothers and sisters. Baruch Hashem, we are in a situation where we don't need to give up our lives right now. Definitely in the current circumstance with the coronavirus, we're asked to wear masks, we're asked to be careful, we're asked to social distance, we're asked to be safe. And that's the little bit we can do in order to protect and make the world a better place. So I just ask of everyone, and I just hope that we're able to kind of have the courage, be able to confront any issues that are coming up, that we're able to talk to people, and we're able to make a difference in the world with having this courage, make a difference in our lives, make a difference with the community, and of course with the entire world. And I just want to wish you all a beautiful Shabbos Kodesh, and thank you so much for listening.